Chapter 1. You can't save, heal, or fix a widower. A common romantic storyline goes something like this. David is a widower who lost his wife Susan to a prolonged illness 2 years ago. He is still deep in grief and struggling to move on while clinging to the memories of his late wife. David keeps to himself, avoiding social interactions and focusing only on his work and kids. His 3 children, family, and friends encourage him to move on, but he remains emotionally closed off, unsure how to open his heart again. Then, usually by happenstance, a woman, Emily, runs into him at work or is introduced to him by his friends and family. Emily is warm, patient, and full of life, and she has that quiet strength that draws people to her. Emily's genuine kindness and openness to others sparks something in David, though he initially resists his growing feelings. David and Emily keep running into each other, and Emily's warmth slowly chips away at David's emotional walls. Emily shares her story of recent heartache, showing him that she understands pain and loss. They become friends through casual interactions, small moments of connection, and shared laughter. Despite his inner conflict and fear of letting go of the past, David wants to experience love and happiness again. Soon David begins to see Emily as more than a friend. They start dating. Things go well. Soon David introduces Emily to his 3 children who are thrilled to have a mother figure in their lives again. Despite their progress, David reaches a critical moment on his late wife's death anniversary. This event forces him to confront his grief head on. He pulls away from Emily, feeling unworthy of love and fearing he will betray Susan's memory. Emily understands his struggle, gives him space, but her patience shows David that love builds on the past instead of diminishing it. Realizing that he can love again without losing the memory of Susan, David musters the courage to open his heart to Emily. In the heartwarming conclusion, David returns to Emily, apologizing for his earlier retreat and confessing his love for her. The two embrace their new future together, understanding that love is a journey of healing and growth. Their story ends with David and Emily starting a new chapter of their lives together, with the knowledge that love can bloom, even after loss. Does David and Emily's story sound familiar? Stories about widowers finding love after loss are a favorite theme for romance books, Hallmark movies, uplifting news segments, and motivational podcasts. Some of you may be going through your own version of your love after loss story right now. While stories like David and Emily's are familiar plot lines in the fictional world, they're utterly detached from reality. In the real world, the story of David and Emily goes something like this. David is still in deep grief 2 years after the death of his wife, Susan. He is consumed by the memories of their life together, trying to hold on to the past while struggling with the overwhelming feeling that he will never love again. He goes through daily life, but emotionally he's checked out. Despite the well-meaning encouragement from his family and friends, David isn't ready to move on. The idea of dating again feels like a betrayal of Susan's memory, and he's not interested in opening himself up to anyone. Enter Emily, a warm and patient woman looking for a fresh start after a difficult breakup. When she meets David, she sees through his stony exterior, notices the sadness behind his eyes, and feels a deep desire to help him. She believes she can break down the walls he's built around his heart with her patience and kindness. David initially resists her warmth, unsure how to handle Emily's openness. Over time, Emily's gentle persistence wears him down, and they begin spending more time together. Casual lunch dates, walks around town, and late-night conversations that stretch for hours. David enjoys her company, and for a fleeting moment, he wonders if there might be a chance for something new. He agrees to keep dating, thinking he could try to move on, but deep down, he's not truly ready. Whenever Emily shows affection or speaks about a future together, the memory of Susan overwhelms David's heart. Still, he agrees to a relationship because he enjoys her company, and being with Emily is better than being alone. Besides, being a single parent to 3 children is overwhelming, and he thinks it would do them good to have a mother figure in their lives again. They become exclusive, and David takes Emily home to meet his children. Emily notices that the house is still stuck in a time capsule, as very little has changed since Susan died. Her trinkets adorn the front room, her photos adorn every wall. Her toiletries are still in the bathroom, and her clothes in the closet make it seem like she'll return from a shopping trip any minute. To make things worse, David's 3 children are upset that their father is dating again. After the introduction, the 2 oldest retreat to their rooms, while the 3rd disregards Emily. Emily finds the visit frustrating and knows David and his children have a lot of work to do to open their hearts, but she's confident that with enough time, love, and patience, they can all start a new life together. As the months pass, nothing changes. Emily grows increasingly frustrated at David's lack of progress. She's been patient, understanding that David needs time, but the longer they are together, the clearer it becomes that David's heart is still locked in the past. He continues to push her away emotionally, unable or unwilling to fully open up to her. In addition, he refuses to do anything to correct his children's rude behavior toward her when she visits. Emily watches as David remains emotionally distant, unable to reciprocate her love for him. Despite her best efforts, she realizes that David's not ready for a relationship with her, and maybe not with anyone. After 2 years of waiting for David and his children to heal, Emily makes the difficult decision to walk away. Although she feels heartbroken, Emily gains clarity and realizes that it's time to find someone who can fully be present with her. David remains trapped in his memories, uncertain if he'll ever move on, while Emily accepts the painful truth that love alone can't fix what's broken. She leaves, sad and frustrated, knowing that her love couldn't heal someone who wasn't ready to heal himself. The second version of David and Emily's story is more common than you might think. Every day, I speak with women who've invested months or even years in a relationship with a widower that isn't progressing. These women have poured their hearts and souls into the relationship. They've gone above and beyond for the widower and his children, only to be left with broken dreams and shattered hearts. Some of the more common situations include women who patiently waited for the widower to clean out his late wife's belongings, only to find that a year has passed and nothing has changed. The late wife's clothes still hang in the closet, family photos remain on the walls, and the home feels frozen in time. Women who sacrificed their own vacation plans or long-standing holiday traditions to accommodate the widower and his children to participate in trips and other activities that they did when the late wife was alive. They think their arrangement is a temporary compromise, only to realize the widower has no intention of ever building new memories together and wants her to fit into his old life. Women who endured cold stares or outright rejection at family gatherings where the widower's children or extended family refused to accept the relationship. Instead of standing up and setting healthy boundaries with his kids and others, the widower dumps her out of the blue because he wants to keep the peace at home. Despite all the love, patience, and understanding these women give, the widower remains stuck. In some cases, things get even worse. These women keep trying, thinking he'll finally be ready to move forward if they love him enough. However, the truth is that no matter how much they give, the relationship never moves forward. The reason things don't improve is simple. You can't save, heal, or fix a widower. Love alone can't mend his heart or push him toward a new future. No amount of effort, patience, or sacrifice on your part will make a difference unless the widower makes a conscious decision to face his grief, work through it, and open himself up to love again. There are no magic words you can say or actions you can perform that will transform him. You can inspire a widower to take steps toward healing, but you can't do it for him. That's a journey only he can take. Think of it like running a marathon. You can cheer him on at the starting line, offer water and encouragement at aid stations along the route, and celebrate with him at the finish line. The only thing you can't do for him is run the race. The widower must lace up his shoes, run the course, and endure the pain alone. You can encourage him to take those steps, but whether he runs the race is ultimately up to him. This is something I've seen with clients and experienced myself. My first serious relationship after being widowed was one I had zero motivation to run that metaphorical race. The woman I was dating, Jennifer, poured her heart and soul into the relationship and thought we would eventually tie the knot. I gave a lot of lip service about moving forward and opening my heart, but deep inside, I couldn't even cross the starting line. I'll dive into that relationship and the reasons behind my behavior in more detail later in this book. However, I share my story now because it's important to know that there is nothing Jennifer could have done or said that would have motivated me to take one step forward. It wasn't until I met Juliana that I was motivated to run the race and finish it as quickly as possible. So, how do you know if the widower you're dating is ready to heal, move forward, and make room in his heart for you? While there's no guaranteed formula, there are 3 things you can do to help encourage him to take those steps and, through his actions, see if he's serious about starting a new chapter with you. 1. Hold him to the same standards as any other man. Just because a widower has experienced loss doesn't mean he gets a pass on basic relationship expectations. Too often, women lower their standards out of sympathy for his grief, only to find themselves in one-sided relationships where they're constantly giving but receiving very little in return. You need to expect the same behavior from a widower that you would from a single or divorced man. Don't make excuses for his bad behavior because he lost his wife. The widower should be willing to invest time and effort into building a relationship with you, make compromises and sacrifices, and take steps that show he's ready for a new chapter and not looking for a placeholder. For example, if the widower avoids introducing you to family and friends because it's too soon, ask yourself what you'd do or say if a divorced man did this. If he won't discuss marriage or long-term commitment because he's still trying to figure things out, ask yourself how you'd interpret his words if he were single. If he won't take down the late wife's photo that's predominantly displayed on their bedroom, ask yourself if you'd tolerate similar behavior if he wasn't widowed. Widowers who are generally ready to move forward will rise to meet your expectations. They'll show through their actions that they want a future with you. Those who still have work to do will make excuses, avoid meaningful change, and leave you feeling like you're competing with a ghost. 2. Set clear, healthy boundaries. If the widower says or does things that bother you, or, worse, fails to address what needs to be said or done, speak up and set clear, healthy boundaries. Boundaries are there to communicate your needs and protect your emotional well-being, not control his behavior. If you don't express yourself, he won't know what matters to you or how his actions or inactions impact the relationship. Here are a few examples of healthy boundaries you might need to set. If he constantly talks about his late wife, say something like, "I understand that your late wife was an important part of your life, but you discuss her so much that it makes me feel like a placeholder. I need to be with someone who can focus on building our own relationship." If his home still feels like a shrine to the past, speak up and say, "It's hard for me to feel comfortable and imagine a future here when it feels like your late wife might walk in the door any minute. I need to be with someone who's willing to open his heart and life to me." If he's still wearing his wedding ring, let him know such behavior is unacceptable. For example, you can say, "When you wear your wedding band, it makes me feel like I'm dating a married man. I don't date married men." Kindness and firmness go hand in hand. Widowers who are serious about building a future with you will respect your boundaries and take steps to address your concern. Those not ready to open their hearts will resist change or dismiss your feelings. 3. Be willing to walk away. This step is often the hardest, but is also essential for your emotional well-being and long-term happiness. If you've communicated your feelings, set firm boundaries, and given the widower ample time to reflect and respond, but nothing has changed, it's time to consider ending the relationship. Waiting for a widower to come to his senses or hoping that things will magically shift is rarely effective. Staying in a stagnant relationship where your needs are constantly unmet usually leads to frustration, resentment, and deep emotional pain. Sometimes, the only way for a widower to fully assess the relationship and recognize its value is to experience the absence of your presence. When you walk away, it forces him to confront what he stands to lose and decide whether he's willing to make the changes necessary to build a future together. However, Waiting around and hoping for a breakthrough that may never come keeps you stuck in a cycle of emotional uncertainty. Walking away doesn't mean you failed. It means you value your time, energy, and future. It's an act of self-respect. You deserve a relationship where your needs are met, your love is reciprocated, and your future is clear. By walking away, you're not giving up on love. You're making room for a healthy, fulfilling relationship aligned with your life goals. What love looks like from a widower who's ready. Widowers, like all men, express their love through action. When he's ready to open his heart and build a future with you, he won't only talk the talk, but also walk the walk. His commitment will show in his choices, effort, and actions. When a widower is ready to move forward, he'll move mountains and swim oceans to be with you. He'll tear down emotional barriers and clear the physical and mental space still occupied by the past. He'll stand by you, even when family or friends struggle to accept your relationship, and he'll actively work with you to create new traditions and memories together. Most importantly, a ready widower will take responsibility for his own healing. He won't expect you to fix him or carry the weight of his grief. Instead, he'll do the hard work of processing his loss, seeking closure, and building a future that includes you. This journey won't be without its challenges, bumps, and struggles along the way, but the key difference is that his progress will come from within. While you can be a loving source of support, a ready widower won't need saving. He'll find the strength to save himself and step into a future with you. Even when a widower is willing to go to great lengths for you, there's still one critical question you must ask. Are you both headed in the same direction? Whether you're looking for marriage, a long-term partnership, or something more casual, your goals must align. No matter how much effort you both put in, the relationship will eventually falter if there's misalignment. In the next chapter, we'll discuss how to find out what the widower wants and what to do if your long-term relationship goals don't match. Nancy's story. Better together. My husband John often says that statement when the struggles, pain, and challenges of life are sometimes overwhelming. We can handle life together. He's right. John became a widower in October 2018 when his wife of 33 years died suddenly of a pulmonary embolism. Hours earlier, John and his wife had made their weekly parent phone call to both adult children. By midnight, their world had turned upside down in an instant. In March 2019, John and I met as volunteers at a hospital that had just opened in our community. I thought he was a little bossy, but I liked his gregarious attitude. We got to know each other by going on the required 15-minute break together during our shift. We talked, we learned, we shared, we cried. It was during these moments that we eventually discovered we had the same last name. I deduced it was most likely because of our last name that we were assigned the same shift. Ironic? Maybe the volunteer coordinators thought we were a couple and assigned us the same shift? I'll never know. Another connection was that our grown children knew each other from years past. John's son and my daughter worked together at a youth retail store for years while they were in high school and college. John's daughter and my other daughter brewed coffee together at a famous coffee establishment. What are the chances? It seemed as if there was much more common ground than we first thought. John's resilience and determination to move forward were apparent in his daily routine. When we volunteered on Fridays, I hoped to be a positive sounding board for him. He talked and I listened. He went through some crazy, funny dating situations, which he shared with me. Again, I listened, laughed occasionally, and shared sage advice when appropriate. It was a lovely way to start a relationship, particularly since John was still grieving and I was still healing from being burned in a past relationship. We started dating January 2020. I met John's entire family on Leap Day at an Irish festival in Chicago. It was a memorable day. While John was open with his family and friends about our new relationship, he unknowingly displayed behaviors that signaled he wasn't ready for me to be completely in his life. He frequently contradicted his words with actions. For example, after his late wife passed, he collected angel figurines and painted each with red hair to look like his wife. These figurines were everywhere in the house. On a positive note, John had cleaned out the closet and bathroom of personal items. Never having been in his shoes, I did my best to be compassionate, supportive, and respectful of John's grief journey. Because of these unique situations, I began my learning journey and turned to Abel Keough's books. They were invaluable. Before reading, I knew I loved a good man. After reading, I knew I loved a good man with a few red flags. We eventually talked, and things were not insurmountable. John, true to his genuine nature, was gracious and honest, and eventually the angels were all packed up and given away. Better together is how we have moved forward. John has generously, lovingly become a stepdad to my now 15-year-old grandson, whom I adopted at age 3. Life is neither dull nor boring, but we ride the daily adventures together with grace, faith, friendship, and lots of humor. We married in March 2023 with all the kids and grandchildren present with us. I finally found my soulmate at 61. Since then, we have weathered more grief, but we hold and support each other, knowing we'll get through it. We are better and stronger together. Elizabeth's story. I started dating a widower I met online. The first thing I noted and appreciated about Joe was his honesty. He dropped me a short line about our mutual interest in World War II history, and I checked out his profile. The very first line said, "I'm a widower and father of a 9-year-old girl." I thought it was courageous and refreshingly straightforward. Though I had told myself I would not date a single parent again, the fact that Joe was a widower made the situation different in my mind. As crass as it may seem, it felt like there were advantages to dating a widower. For one thing, his marriage didn't end because it had failed, but for reasons beyond his control. For another, there weren't going to be annoying custody arguments and weekend visitation issues that make so many other relationships practically impossible. There would also be no crazy ex-wife to put up with, or alimony arguments, or holiday tugs of war. I wrote him back. After a couple of exchanges online, we moved to email and began an in-depth correspondence that went on for almost 3 weeks before we first met in person. Here again, Joe was very honest. I had a lot of questions for him, and while I pride myself on being tactful, some of my questions, while not technically difficult to answer, were not the sort that single men typically face. I've read a lot of stories from women who are frustrated because their widowers weren't honest about their feelings, their late wives, or about what they wanted for their future. Joe is not that kind of man, and I suppose that I'm not that kind of woman who is afraid to ask direct, if tactful, questions. I think that no matter the details of the past relationship, being open and honest with one's partner is crucial. Having a relationship with a widower offers very much the same challenges as any relationship. A man is a man, a woman is a woman, and people are people when it comes down to it. Honesty and communication are crucial. In the scores of emails exchanged before we met, Joe explained the basic details surrounding his late wife's death from cancer. He admitted that many of the women he dated since then had a difficult time with the subject and that he'd learned from each of these experiences and wanted to avoid making me uncomfortable. That's why he was quite forthcoming and even offered some information I didn't think to ask. He made it clear that while his wife's illness and death were by far the worst experiences he's ever gone through, he'd had a little over a year to prepare for the inevitable and do what he could to make plans to help his daughter through it. He wrote early on that by the time his wife passed away, he was sad but not devastated. As it turns out, his marriage had been deteriorating before his late wife was diagnosed, and while her remission offered hope of reparation, it didn't work. It may perhaps sound callous, but hearing that made me feel better. Still, Joe waited over a year before we started dating again because he was nervous about it and wanted to be sure that he and his daughter were both ready. Here again, he was honest both with himself and with his daughter. He asked her how she'd feel about him having a girlfriend. She gave him a thumbs up. He explained in another early email that he told her he was looking for someone who would not be a replacement for Mom, but would be a good fit for us as a family. He was also honest with me about the mistakes he had made after he started dating again. The more he shared, the more I was impressed with his straightforward approach to sharing his experiences, and the more I thought he would make an excellent partner. I think you get the idea. At every stage of the relationship, Joe has been honest and open about what he's been through and where he'd like to go. I've tried to do the same for him, and it's been the most satisfying relationship I've ever had. The fact that he was once married to someone who is no longer living has little, if any, bearing on our relationship. The fact that we are both open and honest with each other, however, has made all the difference.